Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
It's a great pleasure for me to introduce someone who really does make a difference, and he's very shy about that because he knows it's important, but I like people like this who are very caring about society, and the person we're going to be interviewing today is James D.CAMP Jr. He actually is an attorney at Camp and Camp in Fort Lauderdale, but I came to know him because of the Broward Foundation and Broward Health. And what the Broward Health Foundation, and Broward Health, he has made, his family, and he have made a very big difference in what we see today, the Broward Health, the whole feeling of what goes on behind hospitals. People really don't know. They don't know the kind of money it takes and what it does for people. So I'm so happy to have James Camp on the show with us. So welcome. I'm sorry, I know that was a long, involved, but I'm very happy that you took the time to do this today.
Well, thank you. Actually, call me Jim. It's too formal to be called James.
We can say Jim. Okay, Jim. So that's what we do, Jim Camp. So, Jim, I know that we now have something called the J.D. Camp Senior Society, and I know it was created to honor and recognize the generosity of forward-thinking individuals, just as your dad, who have made the important choice to support the mission of Broward Health through their estate plans. And I know it honors your father. And why don't you tell the listening audience actually what we were talking about converting the old Granada apartments back in 1937 and why he did it, and you weren't even born.
Well, briefly stated, the recollection that I have of growing up is that my dad and several other civic-minded gentlemen, at the request of the city of Fort Lauderdale, the city commission that is, he and they were appointed as a Fort Lauderdale Hospital Commission to help lead the way to fulfill the needs for additional medical facilities, which were sorely lacking at that time. And he and his cohorts were very instrumental in 1937 in recommending to the city, and the city went along with the idea of buying the Granada apartments in the southern part of the city, and it was converted into a hospital, and I think they bought it for something like $26,000. I don't know what they'd be worth today, but and then they started the seedling of the existing Broward General Hospital, which of course has grown to be a magnificent medical center, of which we're all proud. But it started in a very small way, so to speak, compared to today's edifice. But in any event, they were able to get the city to put up some funds, and they raised some funds locally, and that was the beginning of a great hospital.
And I'm sure that we can't see him, but your dad's roaming those halls. You just don't see him doing that.
Well, my dad was a poor boy growing up on a farm outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and he had aspirations of being a doctor.
Oh.
In young years, but the family treasury did not support that ambition, so he got into the banking profession and started at the lower level, and because he's a hard worker and very ambitious, he rose through the ranks, and in 1925 he accepted a position in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with the old Fort Lauderdale Bank and Trust Company as cashier. And unfortunately, that bank, along with other banks, during the 1928 depression in Florida, which preceded the 1929 depression around, nationally. Anyway, it went the way of all flesh, you might say, and then he, along with John Lockery and C.N. McKeon, a lawyer, and J.S. Powell, who was a building contractor, and other civic men, got together to found the Broward Bank and Trust Company, which got into business in 1928. And he proceeded forward as a hard worker and ambitious young man, and eventually became the president and CEO of that bank. And later on, as the banking industry grew and as he grew, he became CEO and chairman of 3 major banks in Broward County. So he was a successful guy, but he still had some, medical leanings in his background.
Yes.
Even though he couldn't become a doctor.
Well, he did it a different way, and it's beautiful. And I was thinking as you were talking, I came to Miami in 1946. And I remember when we lived in Miami that Fort Lauderdale wasn't much of anything. I mean, it was that place up there, with some islands around it. And so when your dad started this, converted the 48, well, I guess it was the Granada Apartments into 48-bed hospital. That was very brave of him, and that was fantastic because when you see the General Hospital now, Broward General, you say, oh, my heavens, everything has to start small, but this was enormous.
Well, I think the whole shooting match, when they bought the property and bought the Granada Apartments and built the initial hospital facility, I think the whole outlay was about $57,000. Now, that would be, in millions of dollars in today's dollars, I guess.
Of course, but that was very important for him. He really wanted to be a part of the community. It's obvious that he was a part of it as a banker, and now he wanted to give back. And actually, that's what we're trying to do at the Broward Health Foundation. We're trying to find people who have been successful in Broward County and share some of the success, just as your father and you do. And we're very, very impressed with the people who we have had contributing to the foundation. And having now the D.CAMP Senior Society is extremely important so people can see what movers and shakers do and what is possible.
Well, he not only was successful, but he became president of the Florida Bankers Association statewide, and then later on, Governor Leroy Collins appointed him to serve on the Board of Regents, which at that time supervised all of the universities in the state of Florida. So for a modest young man of modest means, I should say, he certainly became a success. And, he did all this without a college education.
It is amazing, isn't it? And so I suppose that your dad pushed you, said, okay, now you have to go to college and you have to become either a doctor or a lawyer, right?
Well, he pushed me, but he didn't push me toward the banking field or the legal field. I think maybe secretly he might have wanted me to get in the banking profession, but for some reason, back about in the elementary school ages stage, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I think that was because I was very argumentative at the time.
Argument? That's very okay. So, what kind of a lawyer are you? Are you a corporate lawyer, or are you a prosecutor, or what type of law do you practice?
Well, first of all, I hope that I'm a good lawyer.
Okay.
I do now. I used to do trial work and commercial work at a big firm many years ago, but of the late years, I have been zeroing in basically in the estate planning and trust and will area. So that's my niche at this point in time.
Well, that's good because we need people. And I've been doing this on the radio. I've been on the radio for 25 years, and I have said to people, when you find an organization that you really have faith in, you need to make sure you leave some, just a little bit. You don't have to leave a lot if you don't have a lot. If you have a lot, you ought to leave a lot. But instead of having your grandchildren drive around away in their big red Porsches and all, leave some money so that you become immortal. I think that's how, your dad's become immortal in a way, because he has done something that is not going to go away. And I think that it's very important. Do you agree?
Yes, and he has another namesake, my son, who's James D.CAMP III. And he has a son who is James D.CAMP IV. So,
wait, you don't sound that old, so what's going on here?
Well, I wish I were younger than you think I am, but in any event, I'm still trying to plug along. I don't go into the office as early as I used to, but I usually stay as late as I used to. So I'm still trying to give it a little bit of a go.
I'll bet you have a picture of your father in your office.
I certainly do.
I knew it. I'm going to have to come by your office sometime and see this, but I really am very impressed. And of course, the foundation, the Broward Health Foundation, is working hard now to raise more funds to do so many things. It's such a huge county now. When you think about it, when I was living in Miami, as I said, we didn't even think about a Weston, or we didn't think about Davie and all that out there. But my goodness, this county is rich with people and beautiful cities. So I think...
Well, apropos of that, when I was in high school, the population of Fort Lauderdale was about 17,000. And I was on my bicycle one day facing U.S. number 1. We had no tunnel at that point in time that we have now. But some tourists pulled up and wanted to know what was the name of this little village. And I, of course, took great umbrage at the fact that somebody would refer to Fort Lauderdale as a little village. I thought it was a pretty nice town.
Oh, I love it. That's good. That's a good story to tell. Well, but as I said, when I lived in Miami, Fort Lauderdale was just, it was just up and coming. But, but boy, what's happened now, it's fantastic. And it really, the Las Olas, of course, and the tunnel and so many things there are beautiful. But I like the people in Fort Lauderdale. There's a lot of history there too, the Historical Society, and there are old buildings, and I like that. I don't think we have as many old buildings up here in Palm Beach County, but I know Miami-Dade does, and we want to keep those buildings. So I know that. And let me ask you this: is there any little piece of that Granada apartment somewhere? The original?
It probably is somewhere, but God knows where it is.
Underground.
But I want to say this right now, that I have been privileged to meet and know Dennis Stefanacci, who's head of the Broward Health, and I think he's one first-rate guy, and I'm sure he's doing a great job for Broward Health.
Oh, he's a jewel. I got on because of him. You can't say no to Dennis. He has such great passion for what he's doing and what he's in charge of. But he was very, very complimentary about you, and he said, you need to interview him on your radio show. I said, okay, and I'm sure he twisted your arm to come on and do this.
Well, at least I fooled one person in my lifetime.
Right. Well, let me ask you then. So when your dad was working with the hospital, he had to find some doctors. This was an expensive thing, not just to build a 45-bed building that was for medical, but it required a lot of other things. So did they support all that? They did it with the city. Was there a county at the same time also?
Well, of course, the county, I suppose, was in the background. I don't know how much money they contributed, but Dr. Elliston, you probably know the history of this, I believe it was Dr. R.L. Elliston, was head of the Medical Society in Broward County, and they were very much in support of the building of a new hospital to provide for the medical needs of Fort Lauderdale and the surrounding area. And yes, the Medical Society was very supportive of it, and of course it grew like topsy I think they moved in officially in 1938, and I think Dr. Olson admitted the first patient that year. And of course, as it grew, they needed more facilities, and so they added an east wing, and then they added to the beneficence of the city putting up some money, and then I think the south wing. But I don't know whether you're aware of this, but I think about 1949, after they'd added a couple of wings over the years, the Fort Lauderdale Commission, headed by my dad, went to the city again for another handout for, I believe it was the west wing. I'm not sure. It was another wing anyway, and the city turned them down. Well, my dad and the members of the commission were so upset that the city wouldn't come forth with more funds, and that they all resigned on time.
No kidding. Tell me more about that. That must have been quite a, I mean, it's like a tornado hit Fort Lauderdale.
I was in college at that time, and I just heard about that peripherally. I wasn't too privy to all the details, but I know that happened. And then out of that, I guess out of the bad news came the good news. They were able to get legislation to the state legislature for the establishment of a hospital district, which of course is what it operates on now.
I didn't know that fact. Now, so that came out of the commissioners denying the money?
Yes.
Wow.
They needed to do something to provide medical needs, and so they got a bill passed to establish a Broward hospital district, which of course is what they operate under now.
That's a story. I don't know a lot of people know that, but that's a great story. I'd like to maybe interview you and put this in my magazine, Boomer Times, because this history is not known probably by its citizens, only maybe some of the top people, and that's important. I wonder how long those commissioners stayed in office. Probably not. I don't think...
I don't remember. I wasn't in the local
I know. But see, so when they say that sometimes as you were saying, when something happens, great disappointments, and then look, it caused something that they never would have had the courage to go and do it. There was no reason for it. Then they said, well, we have to get it somewhere. We'll go to the legislature.
Right. Well, all's well that ends well, as the saying goes.
True. I remember when Leroy Collins was the governor. In fact, isn't it Collins, the area? Let's see. That's the west part of Broward, isn't it? That's it's named after him.
No. There was a move afoot when the tunnel was built. I think about 1958. There was a movement afoot to call it the Collins Tunnel, but that didn't come to be. So, in any event, I think it was in this called the New River Tunnel.
Oh.
And then later it changed, named after a Herald Herald editorial writer.
Oh.
Presently.
Yeah, I see. Well, you must have had an interesting life as a young man then. Even you went away to Atlanta. Did you you said you were in school in Atlanta?
No, my dad was
from Atlanta, right.
Born in the outskirts of Atlanta. I was born in Fort Lauderdale, believe it or not.
You were born in Fort Lauderdale. Oh, my goodness. Well, that's only appropriate.
Anyway, I later was fortunate enough to serve as the president of the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, as was my dad before me. So you can see he was quite active in the community.
But, he had a great influence on you. I'm listening to this, and it sounds like you have had a great influence on your son and now your grandson. Wow. So there are the four camp generations. Are they all? Well, your dad and you live in Fort Lauderdale. Is your son and grandson living there?
Yes, my son is my law partner.
No, your son's I saw Camp in Camp. That's your, oh, what a beautiful thing to happen. Wow. Well, you're living.
My grandson is just about the eighth grade at St. Anthony's Elementary School now, and I think he has ambitions to be a lawyer, but we'll see.
This is so joyful to see a family that has been so close, stayed together, and doing extraordinary things in the county and actually beyond, because you set an example for people. So now what we want to do is you have actually started something. We want people to contribute to this and to the Broward Health Foundation, and we're going to have to get you, I'm sure you're going, are you going to celebrate? Hopefully Dennis is going to win I think it's called 211. Did you hear about that he's been nominated?
No.
Oh, well, we'll have to sneak you in there. Maybe he was embarrassed to ask you, but I'll go to the powers that be and have you get you an invitation, because his name was put up as one of, I don't know how many, not a lot of people who are doing the most in Broward County. And so I'll let you know about that, because I guess he's just a little embarrassed about it, but he's going to listen.
I know there's be some kind of a luncheon, I believe.
That's probably it.
In March.
Yeah, that might be it. I don't know exactly. I don't have my calendar, but I if it is, I'm going to certainly make sure that you get a notice. Yes, I know it is, as a matter of fact. But anyway, and he's going to be listening to this radio interview, so we don't want to talk too much about him. He'll get too much of a swelled head already, right?
I want to tell you one quick thing, a little thing. What I want to say, a little story about my grandson.
Okay.
Recently, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, when Jim the Fourth was only about 5 or 6, the City Commission honored my dad by naming a part of Southeast 2nd Street in downtown Fort Lauderdale after my dad, so the D.CAMP Senior Street. Well, they had the dedication of that about 5 or 6 years ago, and the mayor was there and so forth, and they went through the recognition. And the day before that took place, my son took my grandson, James the Fourth, down to see the sign. And this little 6-year-old looked at it and he said, "Gee, Dad, I didn't know I was named after a street."
Oh, that's precious. Now that's good. That's really good. So that must be really nice for your grandson to see the street. But he knows all about his grandfather, and so he's actually you're the he was a great grandfather. You're the grandfather.
My father, yes, was his great grandfather.
Yeah, great. Yeah, well, he'll know him from many things, and yeah, that is cute. Well, he has quite a history to follow in a lot of people's footsteps here. But it sounds like you're very close, and it's going to be a good thing. Well, it's, as I said, and you're in the elder law part of law, so that's good. And I'm sure you do ask people to bequest worthwhile organizations. Don't you agree that's a good thing to do?
Yes. Oh, frequently clients will come in and if they don't have anything specifically in mind, charity-wise, of course, it gives us the opportunity to suggest charities for them to pick. We don't tell them what to do, but if they ask us, we can point out the charities that are available.
Well, you can have them call me, and I'll tell them what they...
Okay.
I'll do the Broward Health Foundation. Well, once they know what happened, of course, if they know that your father did what he did and started, I'm sure they would do that, but I know you have to be careful about that. But
I can't tell what to do. No.
I know. But you have friends who are now who will. Well, this is a great thing. The D.CAMP Senior Society, and I just want to tell people again, it was created to honor and recognize the generosity of forward-thinking individuals who have made the important choice to support the mission of Broward Health through their estate plans. And again, it honors D.CAMP Senior, who in 1937, as his son Jim has been saying, who, as chairman of the Broward Hospital Association, led a concerted effort to raise the initial funds needed to purchase and convert the old Granada apartments, which were located on Southeast First Avenue between 16th and 17th Streets, into a 45-bed hospital. And Broward General Hospital opens its doors and admitted its first patient on January the 2nd, 1938. So today, Broward Health Hospital's facilities and programs continue to serve the needs of thousands of patients with the same vision and commitment to the community demonstrated by Mr. Camp so many years ago. And here's his son talking with us, and now he has a son who's also his partner and also now a grandson, and this is a lovely thing. So many times here in South Florida, we don't have the old family that we can look up to as people do in New York and Pittsburgh and Chicago, and it's so nice to have this, that the heritage is still here and growing.
Well, I had a pretty good father. He was a great guy.
What was he? We have a minute or so left. What do you remember about him as a father that was really important that you think back on?
Well, he never did preach to me at all, but I learned by example. And he was a strict guy, and I knew that when he said something, that was something that I needed to follow. So I had fond memories of him. I wish he was still here today to see this honor that's been bestowed upon his name.
Yeah, well, somehow I think he knows. Just as I said, he's roaming the hospital somehow. And we never got to talk about your mother, but sometime maybe we'll have another interview and we'll talk about her. I'm in for women too. So, and your wife is, part Irish, but so we'll talk again, Jim. And thank you so much for taking the time. I look forward to meeting you.
Look forward to it, Anita.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a very pleasant week.
I enjoyed chatting with you.
I did also, chatting with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.